template. One of the reasons I didn't grab a stock template is I didn't want to have to make sure that everything lined up. Since I grabbed my urban road, I'm actually matching perfectly where I'm at urban road at the same elevation location. So I'm matching up perfectly there. That is not the case down on the far side. So we're going to use one last tool to get this kind of cleaned up. It's an item called Parametric Constraints. So it's again on the corridor tab under that edit drop down, also available on the context tool. I'm going to open up the template editor really quick to just kind of talk through these if you're not familiar with them. You're going to edit the template drop here. It's going to bring up a version of my create template dialog box, only it's an edit template dialog box. I want to draw your attention to a couple additional settings that are available in points. So I'm just going to double click on my sidewalk here. Point intelligence is driven by the constraints, so I define a constraint, a parent, and then I give values to that. Just under that is a line here called label. By putting a label in here, I get the opportunity to manipulate this value later on, and we can do that in a couple ways. The first is in the template library. Whoops, gotta close that. These will all show up under a list of parametric constraints. And in here, what we can actually do is define the same label on multiple points. And if I want to edit those en masse, I can actually do that here, and I'm going to do something kind of ridiculous. I'm going to do a -2 foot pavement. And what you'll see, if you remember, I do this all the time, hit enter. Oh, you got to tab out first. -2, tab, enter, right? It's going to go and move all of those at once. So that's the first use of these parametric constraints. The second is I can take something like that front buffer sidewalk slope, and I can apply a parametric constraint in the corridor and transition that. Okay? So I'm going to go and take this, and this is going to be my front buffer sidewalk slope left and sidewalk slope here. I'm sorry, sidewalk width. So those are going to be available for me as editable components back in my corridor. Cancel out of here because I do not want that thick of a pavement structure. Again, under the edits drop down is going to be my parametric constraints, also available on the context toolbar under the hammer. Is parametric constraints, it's the dimension with the question mark in there. You can also create all of these out of the corridor properties, which is the bucket here. Again, I really like this canvas-centric workflow. So if I can do it in the canvas, I'm going to do it in the canvas. Similar to my point controls, I'm going to select a start and end location. I see that same ability to lock to the start and the end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two parametric constraints I just showed you, and I'm going to adjust them down to the proper values, which hopefully I remember as we go. I can do that wherever I want. If I wanted to do it just on the tangent here, I could start here and just taper right at the end. If I want to do it just on the curve, I could start here and end here. If I want to do it all the way across the whole thing, I can do that as well. I'm going to do that because then I get to use my fancy alt blocks to the start and the end. So they're going to ask me for the constraint label I would like to move. These are going to be my sidewalk, and I'm going to use the S to jump down first a little bit closer. Sidewalk, front buffer slope left. Nope, not slope. Front buffer width left. So I'm going to adjust this guy first. I think I'm at a 5, an 8, maybe need to go to a 5 or 4 there. We'll figure it out. So I'm going to left click and accept that. It starts at a -5. I'm going to go keep that as the start value. So I'll just left click to accept that, which means I probably go to a -2 up here. So I'm going to do a -2, I'll left click and select that. What I'll see, oh, I did a 3. That's all right, we'll come back and fix it in just a second. Okay, so it's going to taper that on down. You can keep in the command. So I'm just going to go take the start again, the end again. This time I'm going to find the sidewalk width. Oops. Sidewalk width left. Starts at -10, and I'm pretty sure I take this down to -5. Not a big deal because the software holds on to all of this intelligence. So now you can see that I'm a little bit closer there. I did miss just a touch. I wish I could say I did that on purpose so we could show you the corridor properties, but I didn't. I'm going to open up the corridor properties. So all of the content that I'm adding, key stations, point controls, parametric constraints, the template drops themselves, are all available to me back in the corridor properties. It's the bucket here. It's also on the edit panel. In here, that parametric constraints, I took down to a -5. That probably should have been a -3. So I'm just going to go lock that on in and see that we're now really close to tying that on up there. Those point controls are in here as well, and again, the name I give it is what's targeted there. We'll see all of the properties over there on the right. The templates I'm leveraging available there. So those are the templates that are using. All of that's available. There's a key station. I got one of those in there. So all under, we call it the bucket. I call it the bucket. I don't know what other people call it. But I can actually taper that down and match that in. Okay. This same functionality is available to me in a couple other elements as well. Common to have either different curb or potentially drop curb on one of my side streets. I can add those same types of constraints to my curb and just actually drop my curb on out. So I can drop my height, drop my width, so I can actually transition all those parametric constraints. So a lot of functionality there to transition content. Yeah. Real quick, we would want to do that same modification on the other side. So we'll just do a couple more constraints here. This time, I'm just going to do it for that. No, we'll just stick to all. So start to end, sidewalk left, negative, whoops. Going the other way, right, because this is now my start. So we'll run that once more. Okay, so there's my start. Go to the end. Sidewalk width. We'll start with our -5 this time. Go to our -10. That'll bring in the first one. Once more, start and buffer width from -3 to 5. And we've kind of modified that on it, so it's a really clean reality. I've done some pretty elaborate ditch transitions with these parametric constraints, adjusting for slope widths and slopes, adding, I think I've added at the bottom as we go around, because we had a trapezoidal ditch on main line and a V ditch. So a lot of functionality with these parametric constraints to get in there. But I'm getting really close to a model that I could maybe even be happy with. Maybe not, maybe even proud of. So I'll let you add those parametric constraints. If you have any questions, let me know.